So, as you said, like you use Java here. So, are you aware of Java 8? I mean, do you have
Yes, yes,
hands-on on Java 8?
yes, yeah, we are using Java.
So, can you explain me a few features of Java 8?
So the main feature which are introduced in Java 8 is to promote functional programming. So for that, functional interfaces, method referencing, then lambda expression, stream API, optional keyword, and parallel streams in the garbage collection. These are the main features which got introduced in Java 8.
So, why do you think the need of these functional interfaces in Java?
So see, as I said, whole idea of Java 8 is promote to functional programming. So like earlier, if you want to write comparable or comparator, so comparator you need to create one particular class and there write your comparison logic and then write code. So lots of boilerplate code. So that's similar you can do because comparator is having only one method compared to, so that can be considered as a inbuilt functional interface, I can say, which is there before Java 8 also. So that can be used in the lambda expression. So what we do in lambda expression, we provide implementation of abstract method of functional interface. So there is only one abstract method and we provide that particular abstract method. So no need to call that particular abstract method specifically. So lots of boilerplate code you can avoid and you can write that refined code in just one or two lines by using Steam API or by using functional interface. So main change is this way. Functionality wise it is same, but yeah, coding wise, timing wise, lots of
So,
boilerplate can be avoided.
do you think we get anything on performance side? Any benefits on performance side because of this lambdas that you mentioned, which
See,
was used for
honestly speaking,
implementing function interface?
performance side, honestly speaking, I don't see much change because thing was, but yeah, coding side I can see the changes. But yeah, the performance side, in garbage collection there is that parallel thread, parallel stream can be enabled for the garbage collection. So that is one performance improvement I can see. And in lambda expression and functional in whatever my experience is, I haven't seen any drastic performance stage I can say. So uh, no, from my side, no, I haven't seen that.
Okay, by the way, I mean, if you want to measure the performance of your code or your application, what are the different tactics you can use? Or if you find that some of your services have low throughput rate, so how do you tackle such issues? For example, you have a microservices as you
Right.
mentioned, right? So there are so many components involved, right?
Hmm.
There could be some subsystems, right?
Hmm.
There could be some database, there could be some caching, or there could be some other APIs that you call. So how you tackle such scenarios when you
Okay.
face any performance
So
issue?
when we start, definitely we start with low volume of data. So once it is working for low volume of data, we do volume testing to measure the performance issue also. If it is taking longer than expected, yeah, we get heap dump from Java Virtual VM, which is by default there in the Java 8. And we can read that heap dump file by using many tools are available. In Eclipse also there is one built-in tool, Eclipse mat analyzer or something, which will give you idea which object is taking more memory. So that can help to reduce your performance issue. Or
What else?
like in Java also, we know in Java garbage collection is automated garbage collection. So we need to check whenever any full memory, that full garbage collection, whenever the full GC is happening, actually it is trying, it is able to release any resource or not. If it is not, then we need to check that why it is not doing that. So those kind of things we
What
can
if
do.
what if I don't find any issue in my memory? I mean, everything is okay on Java side, then
See, earlier before Java 8, we used to read that Java pan space because of that.
no, it's not about. I mean, see, it is not always issue with Java, right?
Right.
For memory, right? There
Hmm.
could be some other things also.
So
So
that's
how you
what I
trace
was
that? You are
saying.
just
That's what
giving
I
me
was saying.
example.
In heap,
Sure.
When you are getting your
Is it
heap
just
dump,
a heap issue that any services always face?
no.
Is it just a heap issue that or a memory issue that causes these performance issues? Nothing else.
No,
That, as
no.
I mentioned, like I gave you many scenarios, right?
No, it is not like that only Java or any services. If there is microservices in all, there can be multiple services involved for the end-to-end flow. So then first we need to identify if any particular service is getting slow and why it is getting slow, because of
Right.
any timeout, or if any if any particular code for that particular service. So, like if it is there any connectivity issue, or is there any load balancing required for that particular service? So those kind of things we can do.
Okay. So in Java, we have this equal and hash code methods, right? So can you tell me what is the importance of this equal and hash code? Why
See,
it is important to implement this equal and hash code?
so basically, when you like in collection and all, whenever we use hashing feature for searching, and whenever you are trying to find out any object from your collection, or where you are trying to get or fetch object from collection, it will first use hashing. So there is by default hash code and equal method in Java, which is already in object class. So we need to override to what the, if we will not override, there are chances that hash code may return the same value and again, and it will go to, then equals method need to be overwritten in such way their value, if their value is getting matched, then only return true. So default implementation, I think a hash equals method will check this memory of the two object and return true. So that is not true in always. So we need to override for them to work them proper way, that as their actual value is getting true, then only return true.
Okay. So in your day-to-day work, like there are many design patterns we have in Java. So which design patterns have you implemented or are aware of?
So singleton design pattern is there always in our project. Then factory design pattern is there. Then builder design pattern is there. So these three design patterns are very common in all the projects.
Can you explain me the builder pattern? Why we use builder pattern?
So if we have my object creation logic, to builder pattern is basically to simplify the object creation logic. I can put my object creation logic in one file, and whenever and it will have logics to create object on different configuration, I can say. So different constructor can be provided there to create and it on the basis of their input parameter, and it can return the values of.
Okay. Then you use a singleton.
Yes, we have used.
Where you use, in which scenario you go for
So
singleton?
singleton basically a loader, I can say. When we have want only single object of loader need to be written. Not in all the project, yeah, but few project we have done. And earlier we used to write some these kind of like if there is any property file and which I just want to initialize or read and keep in the memory only for once all their project, and don't want to recreate their object and again. So there we have used.
Okay. Have you worked on generics, Java generics?
Yes.
As I mean, as you are into building components, so you must have used generics. So what is the
Yes.
use of generics and where you use generics?
So basically, in generics is used to avoid casting, I can say. So like if you want to know where I have used, so like JPA repositories. So JPA repository, whenever we are getting any object from database, we can generalize that object with that particular entity. Or if I'm fetching that data from one particular database, or I can generalize that with particular DTO also if it is fetching data from multiple tables. So that will help me to uh, in the ORM module, like my columns will map to the object of my DTO class. So this is a JPO repository side. Other than that also, if I am creating any array list can have multiple like it is heterogeneous object, I can say. It can store, so integer, string, everything can be stored in the array list at in same array list. But I just want to avoid that, and I just want to store any particular type of data type, then I can use that generic there. So that will allow only
You are talking about typecasting.
yeah,
You're talking
typecasting.
about typecasting. I'm asking about generics. Like, what is the use of generic, and like where you can have this generic?
So if I'm creating an array list and I want this array list to store only strings, so I can open and close bracket and I can provide string parameter there. So it will not allow to store any other. It will throw runtime exception. So this is the basic use of generic in the basic Java code, I can say.
So it is specific, right? When you declare it as a string, so it is specific to string only, right? It is not a generic, I would say. You are forcing user to use a string for a particular collection or array list that you have created.
So
Anyway,
that
so you said you work on microservices, right?
yes.
So can you tell me what is a microservice?
Microservices, like earlier we had that earlier application, we have seen that complete application was part of single war file. Like if my UI, my creation, modification, my account UI, my
Monolithic,
customer UI,
monolithic, you mean?
those are monolithic application. That complete application was part of only single war file. Now in microservices, I can extract each entity, like customer entity, account entity, then security entity, to and put them in a separate microservices. If I want into, let them handle to different team, let them, their databases is changed, and if any changes comes in the trading account, there my security war need not to be deployed. So these kind of thing we can achieve in the microservices. Like today my database for trading account is Oracle, later I want to change it to Postgres, so I will change only for my trading account microservice. It will not impact other microservices.
So
Like
can you explain me some design patterns that you use in this while implementing these microservices? Are you aware of
so
design
so
microservice
design
design pattern?
design pattern wise, there is aggregated design pattern which we have used, like API gateways and all that. All the request will come to API gateways and then it will be diverted from there. Then service discovery design pattern is there, where we have to register all the microservices to a service registry client, and that will generate their URL on runtime, and we can directly use the application name for their communication of the microservices. Then what else? Circuit breaker pattern is there, which we can use for to provide to make our services for fault tolerance. And then
What it does, what this circuit breaker does.
so circuit breaker is like if microservices A is trying to communicate with the microservice B and B is down, or there are multiple instances of B and any one of the instances bind down, or somehow I'm not getting response from microservices B. So if I'm using directly a try catch and all, it will go and hit the microservices B and again. So in circuit breaker pattern, we can configure that microservices A, we can configure that how long it need to hit that B, and after that what need to be done. We can divert to the fallback methods and all, and there we can write what need to be done. So if it is that threshold criteria is
So
crossed
where you do this configuration?
in
Where you
microservice
do
A,
this configuration?
microservice A, the service which
No,
is
no.
trying
But
to.
do you know any API? Do you know any APIs or tools
Okay, so
to
resilience
do this?
4J, resilience 4J is there in our projects. Which we have seen for that.
Is that a circuit breaker? Resilience 4G? Do you think it's a circuit breaker?
Resilience 4J is circuit breaker, right? Yes. So
It's a
another
retry,
is
right?
it's
Just a retry, right?
it's just
It's
a
a retry.
retry. Okay. So history was there, but later the team decided not to use that because of some support issue and all. Then resilience is there. If
I remember I used resilience.
Okay.
resilience for J or something, and then it gives you retries, right? How many times of retry you can do on based on what exception you can configure. So is it a circuit breaker according to you, or it's just a retry, right?
Retry is fine, but I can see the what we get for history, like we can provide fallback method, we can provide threshold. I think these all we can do for the resilience also. I don't know if it is right example, but functionality wise, I have seen all whatever we can do with uh, history can all
No,
we can do in the
I
resilience.
think it is just for retry,
Okay.
not for circuit breaker, because see, it does nothing after your retry does, right? I mean, it sent the response, right?
So
Whatever
I
it
think
gets, it does.
as
So
per my
what?
knowledge, history is now under maintenance. So if we are not using resilience, so what we are using now for circuit breaker? Honestly, this maybe I am
No, there are.
asking.
I mean, every framework. Yeah, I mean, every framework has a way of implementing it. Like Spring has its own APIs, and then Drop Wizard has its own API to implement circuit breaker.
Okay,
They
then
have
maybe.
interfaces.
So yeah, फिर maybe
So
I'm not
guys
aware.
always confused between the retry and the circuit breaker. Okay. Okay. So what are the things, according to you, is needed, to get a real benefit of microservices? What infrastructure, what things you need when you build microservices, that you get an advantage of microservices.
So microservices, as per my understanding, microservices come with the maintenance overhead. So like the one team was maintaining that whole application. Now we need different team to maintain whole. Okay, the same team can manage multiple microservices also. But at that time, what's the need to divide that? So if my requirement is like where I want to configure, scale up or scale down particular thing, or I expect changes at the one of the major component like in the database or in the UI part very frequently to any other part of that like
Did you get a chance to implement those CI/CD pipelines?
no. So as a development team, we just sprint wise release we do and we commit our code to SVN,
So,
and then after
can
that,
you, but I
yes.
mean, can you tell me like what are the steps involved in your CI/CD pipelines?
So CI/CD pipelines, like basically we have tools for that. Like Jenkins is one of the tools. So what it will do, it will we can configure that this part of release need to be fetched on the that particular duration after that time, and read that file, deploy that file to particular location, and then restart, and everything can be configured in those steps. So, and that will be whole automated process. So it like agile, with the all the agile framework, agile projects we use CI/CD. So like in my current
So
company also,
you don't do that the releases and all, right? You
releases
just
and
push
all.
your code to.
Yeah, those steps I am not doing. Earlier we used to do in earlier companies in Maven, like in Tech Mahindra when I was, we were doing Maven and we were releasing that, but not these that cloud tools which are now we have like Jenkins and all. So, as a development team, we do unit testing at our unit development machine and commit those code into the SQL. And after that, Jenkins is written. And then development point of view, yeah, Springboot microservices has reduced lots of time for us. Like we can get built-in production, built-in project from in Spring initialization.
So which framework you use? Sorry, I mean,
Sorry.
sorry, your voice was breaking.
Okay.
I didn't get your last comment. Your
So
voice
what
was
I was
breaking.
saying, for development point of view, we got many benefit in the developing microservices apart from plain Spring web applications. So like we can go to Spring initialization website and we can write down their dependencies and all. It will give you exe, it will give you complete war project of production ready project, right? I can say. So no need to do complete setup for that project. We can, it will come into the pom.xml, and when we will import that project into our editor, that all the dependencies will be installed from that M2 repository if we are using Maven. So setup time is reduced. This is one of the benefit as a developer, I can say. We have got.
Each microservices has a different project and is different configuration as far as I know. But anyway, so you mentioned about unit testing. So which framework you are using for unit testing?
So framework wise, we are doing manual testing only here, but yeah, we in microservices, each microservices you will get that test starter file, and like we have Springboot application main file, you will get that test main file also. So if I have written my unit test cases in my microservices, I can just run my this test file by enabling, just right click and run as a Java application, then all my test cases will be executed. But how to, I haven't written that, but I know this is a way we can do that. By
You
default
have
we
to
get that
write unit test cases, right? Otherwise, how it will write test cases for you, because you have different scenarios for your methods, right?
so without gen, we can write if we want to use that we want to execute that test API and execute give test from there, but apart from that we can do manual test
Can
cases.
you
So
name? Can you name the JUnit framework? Like, I mean, or the whatever you are mentioning, which write test cases for yourself and then execute. You can execute those test
see,
cases.
honestly, I said earlier also that I haven't written, but we can. I know we can write public methods for testing, and then we can run this test file, which we by default get in the all the microservices. Like we by default get the main file for Spring Boot application, we get for the test also. It will be there. The by default it will
Are
be
you? I
true.
mean, a simple question. I'm asking. Are you aware of any unit testing framework? Forget about what you have. Are you aware of any unit testing framework?
So I haven't used any testing framework. For my project testing,
Okay.
we do unit testing that is quite completely manual testing. So we create our unit test
It's
cases.
a manual testing. Yeah, it's a manual testing you're
Yeah, so we
talking about.
create
It's
our
not a.
unit test cases. Sometimes we get from testing team also, and we execute one by one. This is complete manual testing.
Got it. Okay. Have you worked on any containers like Dockers or Kubernetes?
No.
So in this services
Actually,
are
I
not only
lost
REST,
you.
right?
I
Spring Boot.
lost you in between. Can you come again with your question?
Yeah. So you said like you have implemented this microservices. You're using REST, right? And
Right.
you're using Spring Boot. So can you tell me a few annotations that Spring Boot provides for building these microservices?
Okay. So see, first annotation is Spring Boot application will be the which will be the part of my main file. After that, basically we start from controller file. So there will be @controller, and in controller we write basically @controller or REST APIs if we are developing the @REST controller. And then we will write our APIs inside that with the mapping that gets REST get mapping, post mapping, delete, and put mapping. We can use accordingly. We can write our APIs. After that, and then we can after that we will write service layer, and service layer need to be auto wired in the controller. Then at the service, my class will be annotated. We can annotate it with the @service, and we can write our business logic here. Whatever, if I want to manipulate any the request object which is coming from controller, we can manipulate at the business logic. So now after here we can go to the repository. So if for that JPA repository need we have implemented JPA repository, and that annotation will be the repository, and then that particular class will extend implement JPA interface with argument that entity class and primary key of that. So by implementing this only, we can get by default method in the service method, like save.
No, that's fine. I mean, that is the rest of your application. I was just asking about the rest.
Okay, 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 okay.
Um, so, how you implement security in your REST services?
So yeah, so we have implemented by enabling the security starter in our pom.xml only, we can get the default security, and that we will get that form. So apart from that, this we have enabled the authentication and authorization also by using JWT token. So if you want,
So
I
can you
can
tell me
yeah, yeah.
can you explain
So
me how you authenticate particular user
yeah,
or
so
particular request?
yeah, so we have created our configuration file by extending web apps app configurator adapter. That file, if I'm not wrong, and that file will give you three overridden method, where one will be JDBC authentication with argument type JDBC authenticator. Another will be HTTP, and there is one more. So we have used JDBC authenticator, and we have written in memory JDBC authentication there, which will actually get username and password from request object and authenticate that request object into the database. And if it is valid, it will again go, and then there is one filter written by implementing, if I am not wrong,
What are the
one per
can you
request
tell me
filter.
just hold on? Can you tell me what are the different way you can provide authentication?
So there is authentication. Authentication means username and password validation, not authorization, right?
It's a
Yeah.
basic authentication we are
So
talking about.
basically,
So
what?
do you have so when you said username password, it's a basic authentication,
Right,
right?
right.
So is this what you have implemented in
So
your REST?
after that, on the basis of this username, password, and expiry time, we can create one JDBC token. JDBC to and that code need to be implemented into the filter. One per request filter we have extended, and that code we have implemented there, where we have created this JWT token, and this token is shared with that request in the context object. So this JWT token will be there for further authentication.
So what the JWT token contains?
So JWT token, I think there is three part: header, payload, and signature.
So what that payload has? How
In
you use that
payload,
JWT token?
yeah, in payload we can keep username, password, and then expiry time, and few other things which we can
Do
keep
you
in.
really keep do you really keep username and password in token?
We really keep, I think username is
Does the
there.
JWT token has your security information?
Yeah, yeah, that can be decoded by using the yeah. So password
Why
should
would
not
it
be there.
store a password?
Yeah, password will not be there, but we store username.
What else? I mean,
Then
what is the use of
expiry,
JWT token, right? I mean,
like we are not maintaining any session throughout that. Like earlier in JSP servlet combination project, we used to maintain that request in the that user into session. So when till the time that session is that user is logged in, that user information is available throughout the session. Now we are not maintaining any session. So just to authenticate that particular request again and again, we need that JWT token. So we will identify on the basis of username, expiry time, and I think there are few more parameters which we use. So it will be validated every time. Okay, if this token is met, okay, this user is same.
okay, so next, how you authorize particular users, right? I mean, you must have authorization in place,
Yes,
right? Not everyone can
authorization
do
again.
everything.
Yes, yes. So from database only in JDBC, where we are overriding that JDBC authenticator, there only we can get fetch role from database also. So, and I don't remember the exact code, but there are few methods available in Springboot only, where we can provide that role in that particular one line chaining of the
That
method.
is a configuration that you do at your service layer,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
you allow
So,
particular role to perform. But I'm asking, like, when your particular user access your service, how do you understand like this user has particular role or not?
So if my, like I have logged into database, my user is ABC. That ABC user has admin role. So I will allow with the ant matcher and all that which all APIs this admin user can access. Similarly, if user is
So
only the,
you're saying like when you get a particular user with a username, you query the database and you fetch the rules, whatever roles assigned to him, right? It is a database side configuration you have done.
so data at that when we are authenticating that user with username and password, if that user is at that same time only, we can fetch the role also. So no need to just query and keep this role also in the JWT token, I think. And second time onwards, with the ant matcher and all, we can provide that what kind of activity, what kind of URL this particular role can access.
Are you
Hello.
aware of stateless and stateful services?
Stateless and stateful services. So HTTP is stateless protocol. That's why we were managing session earlier when Spring and Springboot were not there, to make them stateful or to store the state. So session objects and those we were using earlier. Uh, is that answer your question or what?
Yeah, actually.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, on the database side, have you worked on any NoSQL database?
Um,
So you're dealing with this Oracle or
yeah.
MySQL, right?
Yeah. Right.
And any caching framework, caching server, or caching mechanism?
So I do have knowledge of Reddish and all, but I haven't used. Earlier in like my last company, we were using the second level of cache of only Hibernate. So that we were enabling that EH cache and all that, but not advanced, I can say.
Database side, have you worked on any NoSQL database?
Um,
So you're dealing with this Oracle or
yeah.
MySQL, right?
Right.
And any caching framework, caching server, or caching mechanism?
So I do have knowledge of Reddish and all, but I haven't used. Earlier in like my last company, we were using the second level of cache of only Hibernate. So that we were enabling that EH cache and all that, but not advanced, I can say.
Okay. And so, what are the best practices that you follow to maintain the code quality?
Okay, so now if I come to golden source component as a product and services group, whenever we write code, there are few rules defined in the golden source itself. Like we cannot directly create database connections. We need to follow golden source APIs. We cannot directly write method. We need to implement their interfaces and override that particular method. And so those things need to be followed. And apart from that, uh, like method name, there are few rules and regulation defined to write any new method, what method name it should be. And if there is particular type of exception, it should be always golden source exception. Not if you are creating, we as a product and services group, we cannot create any new exception. If it is we need to always override that a particular except golden source exception and create. And then what else? So we do not open any resource in file and in our old Java files and all. So if we are opening, that need to be taken care. This should get closed also. Like if we are opening any resource, if we are not closing, try to use try with resource, so that
So, how do you
def-
handle exception in your REST services?
so yeah, global exception handling is there. So we have created one controller advice, and there we have created exception handlers with methods with orientation exception handler, and there we have declared the exception names.
So, how do you
Sorry.
how this works? Like, how do you inform your client that particular exception or particular it happens in a graceful manner.
So first of all, controller advice is feature of AOP. AOP is like we have controller exception handling. We are using, basically it is advice. So advice will be triggered. Like controller advice will be triggered on the whenever any exception is coming. So for that we have to throw exception. That particular exception whenever I am
Can you
writing
can
any.
you can you give me a structure of your exception class, like what it has?
Okay. So like at API level, we are throwing any JSON exception with some identifier, but we have to just in that exception. So our my REST API or service layer can throw outdated file exception. So in that method, we have checked if it is that particular API is that file is outdated, is returning false, it will be diverted to the outdated file exception which we have written in our controller advice, and there we are returning code 302 something. I don't remember. And then message. That message can be customized. It's from basically come from database. So this is one of the example.
So it has code and message.
Status code and error message.
Okay. Are you aware of different status code using
Yeah,
standard
base.
HTTP?
Yeah, so 200 series is there when the request is successful, and then 500 series is there when the uh, some error occurred at the server size, and I think 400 series is there when I'm not able to reach till server. Apart from there, 300 series can be used to if I want to give message that more that is not suffice, some more information is needed, like in the outdated file. And yeah, so this much I know.